We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 16 of the JEB Board podcast. This is Grayson Applin here in Atlanta. Mustacheless this week, but don't worry, Caleb's making up for that in bundles. Alongside me is Caleb Naylor, Brandon Black, and Kyle Oberhart. We are down one soldier this week. Nick Noah, unfortunately, has the flu. So I guess it's that time of year. So he is down for the count this week. He'll be back next week, hopefully. But when he texted me last night or this morning and said he had 103 fever degree last night, I think that's a good enough excuse for him not making it this week.
I kind of wish that he would have stayed on. I kind of wish that there was some way he could have recorded. That way we could actually watch someone projectile vomit at one of Kyle's picks.
Well, I'm just calling BS. I think he's hungover from that wedding yesterday.
Dude, there was not a thought between those eyes in those pictures.
Yeah. Dude, can you imagine like Nick just sitting there and like he records from his couch because he's like bundled up and he's just laying there like this and all you hear is
Well, that's what BB sounds like every week, so you know.
I don't know, with you yawning, man, like the camera goes to you a lot of the time.
Or catching the dip spit.
Yeah.
Yeah, mid conversation talking about something topical, and then all of a sudden you're
Copenhagen proud, baby.
I feel like that's a racial term. Anyways, going into our highlights this week, the biggest highlight that we had is obviously the Heisman presentation was this week. Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. Like I said, I've said it several times on the podcast and in the group messages and just on the phone. Like, there's no way Jaden Daniels should not have won that award. But it ended up like I kind of like how the voting turned out too. It's like Jaden Daniels won, which he should have because he led most of every statistical category. And if you look back, he actually leads in almost every statistical category for every Heisman winner for the past like 15 years. But it was good to see that Michael Penix got a close second because, like we talked about before with NFL MVP voting, team success does have something to do with that. And in terms of success, out of the four Heisman finalists, he had the most success team-wise. All right, moving on to the second highlight.
I just summed it up pretty well. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you summed it up really, really well. But also, in addition, I mean, this isn't the first time we've talked about Jaden Daniels. We've sung praises about Jaden Daniels all season long. We think by far he has been the most valuable player on any offense across the country, bar none. Yeah. So it's not so much. It's not so much that we're at a loss for words. It's that we've really already kind of said it all. And we all believed that Jaden Daniels is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. And, we probably would all be rebelling against college football and, probably boycotting Nissan if Jaden Daniels didn't come away with the Heisman.
Well,
I'm still shocked Caleb Williams is probably going to go ahead of him in the draft, though, with the numbers he was putting up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I feel like Caleb Williams has he's more physically prepared because you got to think Jaden Daniels is a pretty slight guy. Like he's probably 6'1" and I mean maybe 190. Like he would have
far
to
more
put on
slender
some weight
build
for sure. So, but it doesn't take away his athletic prowess. I mean, dude's just a hell of an athlete. So
funny if we get another Bryce Young situation.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
For sure. Yeah, actually, yeah, we will. Well, in the second highlight, I'll let Caleb take this one away because he's the one that actually mentioned it, and I had no clue about this. But Jimmy Graham this past week, Caleb, you go ahead and lead us off with this one.
Yeah. So the fourth quarter of the Saints game, I honestly, one of the coolest moments for me all season long. I haven't had much to look forward to as a Saints fan, but it was pretty damn cool seeing the Saints use Jimmy Graham like they did in the fourth quarter of the game. So, to kind of recap that game, Saints won handily. Wasn't all too pretty, but they won handily. Now, I don't think that says very much about the Saints because the Panthers are in traction and they are, by bar none, the worst team in NFL right now. Now, the highlight that I take away from it was, it was just so cool. There was one important play that put the Saints in position to score a touchdown, but shortly after that, it was almost like the offense kind of, put in a play by design to get Jimmy Graham a touchdown. And so he really was pretty important to those two drives. And, getting a touchdown, I couldn't be happier for Jimmy Graham because it says a lot about him, how far he's come, because he's lost a substantial amount of weight. He is cut, like far more cut than he was at the time when he played for the Saints. But to have that kind of a performance, after being away from football in his time after leaving the Bears, it was cool to see him come back. I found that to be far more of a highlight than the Saints getting the win because, frankly, that's a game they should have won. So, I can't really feel all too good about that. And so I try to find solace in seeing Jimmy Graham, a guy that I looked up to when I was far younger and, a younger Saints fan. It's always cool to see him out there.
Maybe they need that veteran play to come out there too, that can motivate a lot of guys to start like, man, look at this old man coming out there showing us up, and you get that little spark you need. Because Derek Carr ain't bringing that spark.
No, he ain't.
Well, and I feel like too, the tight end position is like one of those positions that I don't want to say you forget about the most, but like you forget how good those tight ends were. Like Jimmy Graham,
Tony Gonzalez,
Rob Gronkowski. He, God, and what is your background? Oh my God!
I can't even put his face in the camera all the way.
BB, say something. Just say something, BB.
What up, boys? We're back.
Okay, I need to make sure it got in the shot.
Yeah.
But going back to what we're talking about, even guys like another person that you don't really think about that was a great tight end is like Shannon Sharp. Like Shannon Sharp was actually a great tight end.
Greg Olsen.
Oh, for sure.
Greg Olsen, for sure. And yeah, it used. So I would still say, with Travis Kelce's out there, Mark Andrews, it's still a pretty prominent position, but there have been so many that have come through that position and succeeded and, created success for any offense they were a part of. It's cool to see them get highlighted like that. I think another cool part of seeing Jimmy Graham become successful is seeing a moment where him and Foster Moreau, shortly after the Jimmy Graham catch that put him in scoring position, the offense left the field and Foster Moreau and Jimmy Graham were sitting next to each other. And, Foster Moreau, far younger player and New Orleans native, sitting right next to Jimmy Graham. And you just know when Foster Moreau was growing up, that was the dude that he was idolizing growing up, in the New Orleans area. So I could not imagine being in his shoes to, be watching this guy when you're a kid and end up at the same level as him to sitting next to the bench, taking pointers from him and everything.
Yeah, that face, BB. Yeah. Say something. That way we can see it.
Me.
Yeah, that face.
Oh my God.
Oh boy. But yeah, so okay, well, moving on to the third highlight, and I'll let Kyle take this one away. Bailey Zappi. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, man. Well, you look at New England all year. I think in the last 3 games they haven't even scored over 7 points. And Zappia comes in there and he balls. The game itself went over. It's over before the third quarter even ended, which is amazing in itself. But he had 3 touchdowns through the air. And, you always look back at Patriots quarterbacks and you look at what Belichick has done with some of these backups. Tom Brady's, of course, being the number one we all think about. And you always wonder, like, oh, man, is he going to find magic? Is this going to happen again? And I always hope it does. I think football is always better when the Patriots are good. And mostly because I don't like Miami and their fan base. But he just had a great game. If I'm not mistaken, it was 275 in the air, 29 for 37, and he finally brought a spark back to that offense that they've been looking for all year.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that gets into our lowlights, and our first lowlight is one that's pretty comical, not in terms of the content, but just like a football coach saying this and making the analogy. Doug McDermott, I'm sure you guys have and even the people listening at home have heard because it's pretty substantial news. Back in 2019 at like a training camp or like pregame or something like that, Doug McDermott used teamwork, and he used the terrorists of 9/11.
You're talking about Sean McDermott.
Did I say Doug McDermott?
Yeah, Doug
McDermott. Oh, Doug McDermott's Dougie McBuckets. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Doug McDermott.
I was like, I don't know, but yeah.
Oh boy,
Dougie McBuckets.
All right, well, I apologize to Dougie McBuckets. Sean McDermott, head coach for the Buffalo Bills, but he made an analogy about teamwork, and he used the terrorists of 9/11 as an example, talking about how a well-oiled machine that they were. And I don't think that's a great analogy to use as teamwork, especially on American soil, especially, being in New York, it shouldn't be used at all. And it has went from, I have seen the memes on Twitter about Sean McDermott and the Bills, especially after they won yesterday. And brother, they are bad.
Yeah. So, in that case, so Sean McDermott was the coach of Buffalo at that time, was he? Or where was Sean McDermott?
I think he was. I think about this time he was at the Bills.
Yeah. It definitely, it's a lapse of judgment for sure. Just trying to come up with an analogy, and unfortunately came up with a very poor one. With it being so long ago, do I think Sean McDermott had any sort of like ill intention with putting it together? No, I don't. I just think it was a really, really bad analogy, and he stuck his foot in his mouth.
Well, I can say this: if they don't make the playoffs, they'll use that to fire him.
I don't know. Because here's the thing. So here's my argument against firing Sean McDermott. But and I certainly don't believe that this should be part of the calculus when deciding it. But I'm not saying you're wrong, Kyle. But for me, just in general, you even take this controversy out of the equation. When was the last time we ever talked about Buffalo like we have in the past? Rolling on. I mean, good Lord, since Sean McDermott got there.
I was going to say, usually every year whenever they announce the third pick of the NFL draft.
But, it's just, I can't remember a time in my lifetime, maybe when Rex Ryan was there for a time. Was it Rex Ryan or no? I'm confusing that with the Jets. But
that was with the Jets.
But I can't remember a time in my lifetime where Bills, the Bills fans had anything to really look forward to. There was a time when Tyrod Taylor was there, and that was an exciting time. But to be honest, I think Sean McDermott really overhauled the way that the entire nation perceives the Bills now.
Well, the one thing I will say, I could see them use kind of what Kyle's saying is kind of use it as a scapegoat to get rid of them. But let's be real, how teams get when they taste a little bit of success and the fan base gets and the organization gets. It's like, the Bills have been great the past 3 or 4 years since Josh Allen has come in, pretty much. So the thought process in the front office might be, okay, we've had this talent, we've added talent. They added Stephon Diggs a couple years ago. We have this talent. Why aren't we winning? So if you have the personnel, then you look at the coaching staff. So I see it less of, yes, McDermott has been relevant. Like, he has made the Bills relevant, but once teams get a taste of that success, making an AFC Championship game, making consecutive runs in the playoffs, but they don't get it over the hill. It's almost like the same situation that Ryan Day's in. Like, Ryan Day by no means has a bad record as a coach, but in the same token, he can't beat Michigan. He's 1-3 in bowl games, and he can't get over the hump. So now that they're there, they may want to get over the hump. So they may look otherwise for whoever it may be. I mean, that's, and another thing that I want to bring up real quick too. Remember, I said at the beginning of the year that I thought the Bills were on a decline, and record-wise, they are on a decline from last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with him one more year, but I don't know. I feel like McDermott definitely shot himself in the foot.
He did himself no favors.
Yeah, for sure. Our second low light, I'll let Caleb take this away again, is Derek on Derek crime. Go ahead, Caleb.
So, you're watching the Saints game, and like I said, it's a game that they're supposed to win. It's the worst team in the NFL. The Saints ended up winning handily, but the score wasn't all that. There wasn't too much of a deficit at this point in time. If I'm remembering correctly, it was still a 1-touchdown game. Carolina Panthers had 6 points, and I think the Saints had like 13 or something. And so it's not the deficit wasn't all that big. So Derek Carr is dropping back. He gets a lot of pressure, and as he gets a lot of pressure and everything, he sort of does what he does and panics and tries to look off for a dump off, to a short route, bubble screen, what have you. And then he manages to get the pass off and gets it into the hands of a player. And it'd be really remarkable if you didn't realize it was Derek Brown. He threw it right to the line of scrimmage, and Derek Brown, right into his hands. So Derek Carr threw an interception to Derek Brown, a defensive lineman. Derek Brown, who's recorded only just 1 sack all season. So, not a highlight by any means. Like, there was...
For Derek Brown, maybe.
Yeah, for Derek Brown, I'm sure it was great. Derek Carr did all he could to make sure that Derek Brown recorded an interception this season. Did everything in his power. And at one point, I even sent into a group message. Me and Grayson were talking about it, and I said, "So, Derek Brown just embarrassed Derek Carr by catching a interception off of him." And then I was like, you know what? Scratch that. Derek Carr embarrassed himself by throwing an interception to Derek Brown.
And I was like, that's the more correct terminology on that one.
Definitely a low light.
Yeah. Well, for our third low light, let's go to our incognito baseball analyst, Brandon Black, for our MLB talk of the week. Obviously, the big thing in the MLB this week was Shohei Ohtani choosing where he was going to go, and obviously going to the Dodgers. So, BB, if you would like to go more into detail about contract details and the whole 9 yards.
It's Brucey's time to shine, baby. The MLB got what they wanted, which was Shohei playing for the Dodgers for some reason. And, honestly, for him, that move makes 0 sense. Because, with him being on the Dodgers, it makes me as a Braves fan not fear them anymore or any less. And I don't think it's going to end up being a good move. I don't think he's going to win there. Because if you look, you have the Arizona Diamondbacks, who just played in the World Series, that are young and are dark horses for the Heisman, with like Corbin Carroll, Zach Gallen, and then also their divisional rival, the Giants, who every 2-3 years they summon the magic of Willie McCovey and turn a 56 win team to a 102 win team and win the division just for no reason whatsoever. And then for like a baseball perspective, I don't personally, if you want to go to the game, you probably shouldn't have your most like influential, exciting player play at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock on a weeknight for 3/4 of the season. You know?
Yeah.
It's like imagine like, and like the same thing like why like put in NBA terms why nobody really wanted LeBron to go out west, because the kids that they're trying to attract the audience for has a bedtime at about 9 o'clock, and you know LeBron's tipping off at 10:30 local time. But
well, I mean, BB, you talk about that, but then I mean, you do have a role model in Ja Morant. So I mean, you know, like they can, you know, they got someone to look up to.
Yeah, I gotta disagree. Safety. I gotta disagree, BB. I think honestly, I think the Dodgers with him will win at least 3 World Series in that 10-year span. Okay. You know, he's going to the same place. He doesn't have to buy a new house. He's familiar with the area. He's still close enough to Japan. I think for him it's a smart move. And then Dodgers just got kind of lucky with him deferring all that money.
I'm pretty sure that was going to happen no matter what. No organization, no matter who he tries to negotiate with, is not going to have enough money to pay him $70 million a year while maintaining a somewhat functional roster.
Yeah, and well, they're putting it all on.
The thing is with the Dodgers is that their like core players are over the like 32 and older. There's a reason why Freddie Freeman wasn't a Brave. And it was because they didn't want to give a long-term deal to an aging player. Their whole team is aging. No Kershaw. Kershaw's gone. Grayson, you want to tell them about your favorite left-handed pitcher that pitches from the stretch?
Oh, Julio Urias? Yeah, that guy's a joke. I mean, who's a starting pitcher that pitches from the stretch?
The guy that gets up a lot of hits.
Exactly.
And then you look, okay, so like their ace of the future, Walker Buehler, his pants are so tight, he's carrying his AC or his Tommy John every time he pitches. He can't stay healthy. And Shohei right now is going through the same thing. And you know, I know
his pants are too tight.
I mean, probably. I don't know. I hadn't looked at his ass lately. He hadn't played. But I just like it doesn't make like it would make more sense for him to sign for a team like the Diamondbacks if he wanted to win, or even my Braves. But I'm biased.
I am too. Like I put in a group message earlier. I hope he flops.
I mean, he's not gonna flop. He's He's good generational talent. But it just seems like oh man. I don't like
well, they're putting all their chips in this 10 years because when they have to pay that lump sum of what is it, 688 million or something like that at the end of this, that's it, man. That's gonna kill your organization for at least 5 to 10 years.
The thing is though, too, it's not like basketball or football where one player is the difference between you winning a World Series and losing. And the pieces they have now are about to be put in a retirement home. And then in about 5 years from now, he's gonna be the same situation that he was in with the Angels. He doesn't have the second best player in the world with him in Mike Trout.
Well, when he pitches a 2-hit World Series with a home run and he's crossing that home plate and they take that picture,
yeah,
he's going to be the new MLB. Yep, that's the new MLB photograph for the next 100 years, right there.
Yeah. Well, I was told to explain this explain Shohei Ohtani in NFL terms. Our Eagles analyst Dalton, he didn't keep up a lot of baseball. Obviously, he's a Phillies fan, but he said explain it in football terms. I said Shohei Ohtani is if Taysom Hill was able to get 85 non-passing yards and a touchdown every game, and then double that up with 250 passing yards and 2 touchdowns every single game.
Yeah, I think
play
that's
linebacker.
Tom Brady and Randy
analogy.
Moss were the same player.
Yeah,
Tom Brady and Randy Moss were the same player. So on the Shohei subject, sorry, down bash. But on the Shohei subject, I tend to be more aligned with Kyle. I think this is a good move. I think BB makes some really valid points in regard to, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. They're not going to be there much longer. But I think when you sign Shohei to this long of a deal, they're going to be able to build around him once they're gone. That might be something that they're accounting for.
Well, you say that, but Mookie and Freddie are on those same kind of deals where all that money's deferred. And so right when they're in the wheelchair going to the finish line, that's when they're going to pay Mookie the rest of his $260 million contract, and Freddie's 90 whatever he signed, 222. I mean, I don't know if they can afford a luxury tax to build around Shohei with all this deferred money they're going to pay after these players retire.
Well, I don't know, man.
It's the same situation the Yankees were in. That's why the Yankees have been so butt cheeks.
If you remember, I sent that article that was showing just him as a player makes a $375 million revenue for a team. And when you have an organization like a Dodgers who brings in almost a full crowd every game, plus all the jersey sales and all that, I think they'll be okay.
Do you know how the luxury tax works?
Yes, I know how it works.
Like, you get penalized 10 plus 10% of your total salary each year you go over.
Yeah.
So if they want to keep up this building around him with these players, they're going to be paying like almost $1 billion in luxury tax penalties. I mean, it's not in it. It's just not going to work. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, from a biased opinion, it's bad that Shohei is not a Brave, and I feel bad. But in the same token, it is good because that means that A-list tickets are not going to spike for next year. So, I'll take the small wins.
We can still afford our nosebleed seats, Grayson.
Yeah, exactly. What section 425, baby, up there in the Eagles' nest. Hey, it don't rain or snow up there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
With the real,
that's a good thing about that small market team with the Brewers. I go pay like $10 a ticket, and I'm right there on the outfield wall with aisle seats.
You pay $10 a ticket because the Brewers are shit.
Hey man,
small market team.
They make it to the playoffs every year. That's all that matters.
In the equivalent of the NFC South division. Somebody has to win it.
Kyle, you can't get into Truist using nothing but Kraft American cheese, dude. Like,
at least I don't have to lock my doors when I go to a Brewers game.
brother,
it's in Marietta?
It's
have you been there?
It's
pretty nice.
Your team's city is so shit. They don't want to build it in the city itself.
No, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I go to downtown every single day. I wouldn't want to build a baseball stadium down there.
We can walk around the stadium in peace.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's almost like a baseball city. It's baseball city, Georgia.
That hospital shooter came strolling through Truist.
Yeah, that was like 2 or 3 months before I moved here.
One oopsie, okay.
Do you got a roof? Do you got a roof over your stadium?
And you're acting like the Braves are the only team that does that. I mean, come on, look at San Francisco 49ers. The 49 Levi Stadium isn't in San Francisco.
All right. Would you ever put anything in San Francisco next to all the homeless that's all over the ground?
I think you should.
I have an impromptu fourth highlight, and we can talk about it very briefly.
Okay. Yeah.
So my impromptu fourth highlight is you could see behind me, Kadarius Toney was clearly offsides. Clearly offsides.
Yeah. All right. Well, that gets us into our uncivil debate, which I felt like talking baseball was pretty uncivil. But our topic for this week is which NFL team is in the worst spot. And we're taking all things into consideration. We're talking about personnel, talking about staff, talking about front office. So I since Nick is not on here, I'm going to go ahead and read his off. He sent it to me earlier. So he picked up Pittsburgh. And basically to sum it up, he said, Kenny Pickett is bad, injured, and not a franchise starter. And besides Joey Porter Jr., defense is starting to age. Star, he put in quotations, players like George Pickens and Deontay Johnson whine and give up easily, making them liabilities. Najee sucks, and Warren isn't the type of running back that can handle multiple years as a number one back with his size and run style. So that was Nick's basically go on the Steelers. So, Kyle, let's start with you after that, and let's get into your team that's in the worst spot.
One of the big reasons I picked the Giants was their season last year, where they made the playoffs, and they were picked this year by a few analysts to be a Super Bowl favorite.
What analysts were those?
Did you not send me some of the reports and Vegas betting odds?
Just they were stuff in Microsoft Word doesn't make it.
In Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, they were numbers like the 6th overall on odds to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. Yeah. And like I said, that's coming off last year's success. So, but Daniel Jones decided that he was not an NFL quarterback this year, and they have fallen apart. I mean, the easiest way to look at it is look at their 2 games against Dallas. They've lost by a combined of 80 plus points.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Their defense is horrible. And it's not just like they have one aspect of bad defense where, you look at the Packers, their run defense isn't good. The Giants' pass and run defense is horrible. So you have to fix 2 of them in the draft coming up. And then you look at your quarterback play where you screwed yourself with a Daniel Jones quarterback that you have in for another 2 years. And the best I can really suggest for this team is looking at next year's draft is maybe trading your first round this year and your first round next year. And looking at your to the Panthers and looking at a new franchise quarterback. And I hate to say it, but everyone wants to believe it, but maybe picking Caleb Williams as your first round pick. You got to get some kind of spark because Daniel Jones is not a franchise quarterback. He's not. And if you stick with him, your offense is still going to struggle. And it's gone to so bad that it's starting to affect like your other big offensive pieces. Saquon Barkley, he's fallen off bad this year as well. And they've had to lean.
Well, he's been hurt.
Well, then, yeah, that is true. But when he hasn't been hurt, Grayson, he's not putting over. You're lucky to see him over 50 yards a game.
Yeah, keep going. I'll pull up his stats.
Yeah, so it's not. It's like the whole team has seen how bad this is, and it's like they just stopped. Their coach took over last year, and like I said, he brought him to the playoffs. Brian Daboll.
8 ball.
Yeah. And then now they thought they found the guy. Now they're talking about firing him already. And it's a mess. You got a mess front office, you got a mess defense, and you got a mess offense. So, like I said, I think the best solution is maybe trading up for what people are saying is a generational quarterback that can change a franchise.
Yeah.
And see where it goes from there.
So going back to Saquon, so he is averaging, looks like around, I would probably say 80 yards a game. against New England. He only had 46. And then he also had he's not really doing much receiving. The most he's had all year was 4 receptions for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns against Washington. But I think I could do that against Washington. So he had 128 yards against the Jets. But yeah, I mean, he was injured against San Francisco, Seattle, and Miami. So realistically speaking, kind of to your point, especially against San Francisco and even Seattle, that could possibly bring his average down because those are 2 decent defenses. Miami, who knows? Miami's so wishy-washy on the defense.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, your next string quarterback is DeVito, who still lives with his mom and pop. And it's well,
hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that. They let me do it.
All right. Well, Caleb, that gets to your team that you picked.
So on the topic of arguing which team has it worse, I think I got the easiest job tonight. I have the Carolina Panthers, and the first thing I'll point to is, of course, the record 1-12. Doesn't get much worse than that, unless you consider the fact that Frank Reich got fired after just getting hired this January. So now they're 1-12 without a quarterback. And you think, oh, well, how much worse can it get than that? You're 1-12 without a coach. I mean, not a quarterback, without a coach. And then I tell you that out of all the running backs that the Carolina Panthers have, they don't even combine for 1,000 yards. So 0 rushing game. The running back that you're actually paying less than Miles Sanders has 644 yards on the season, while Miles Sanders has 399 yards.
Miles Sanders has also been dealing with injury too.
He has been dealing with injury, but I mean, you look at the productivity game for game. Chuba Hubbard he's he commands a lot of carries.
Yeah, by no means am I saying as that.
No, I got you.
Yeah, that's not like an excuse for him. That kind of goes into what you're saying, the productivity, because Miles Sanders left Philadelphia. Obviously DeAndre Swift came in after him, but he left Philadelphia as kind of like the number 1 back, and goes and gets paid a little bit more at Carolina. And to your point, Chuba Hubbard has more production this year than he does.
Yeah, and so then you think, okay, well, they don't have a rushing game as far as their skill players go. Everything's lackluster there. How could it get any worse? Your best receiver is Adam Thielen, who has 127 yards on the season, and who is playing in his 10th year in the league. Yeah, you just drafted, I think in the 2nd round this past draft, you drafted Jonathan Mingo, but Mingo hasn't really grown into the league yet. So you can't really say all that much about that. And with the lackluster receiving yardages that you see out in the stats, currently Bryce Young has 2,192 yards. So to me, when I see his stats, I see the receiver stats, and I see the rushing stats for the entirety of the Carolina Panthers, I see the first thing that comes to my mind is offensive line problems. You're constantly seeing Bryce Young under pressure. They just don't have it's clear, all too clear, that they did not have the team to run whatever kind of scheme Frank Reich was wanting to run. So it makes sense that they fired him. That's a step in the right direction. You got an interim coach, but I wouldn't have the faintest idea who they hired. I really don't. I do think Bryce Young is a good quarterback that you can build around. So I don't see any reason to be out on Bryce Young. I think he was dealt a very bad hand at Carolina. But the thing that I think troubles me even more, they don't have a first-round pick next year. And I know Kyle talked about, trading to get a first-round pick, and that's a possibility. But who do they trade? My first thought is maybe they trade Miles Sanders if they can, and then try to get some draft capital out of him. But Miles Sanders, after this past season with an injury, you're not going to be able to get as much for him. So you're kind of in a bind there. Can't really look at him as a solution. With the and from that point, and when you look at this upcoming draft, they traded away their first round pick. They have a second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, and sixth round, maybe a seventh round. Let me check my notes real quick. Yeah, they have a sixth round. So they have one pick per the draft, but they're missing out. And I just feel like this upcoming draft is going to be a little bit thin when it comes down to those past the second round. It's going to be very, very thin as far as all the players coming through. And I think they need to prioritize offensive line to get any measure of success out of Bryce Young. Then after that, I would recommend receivers. Then after that, I would possibly recommend defensive backs. Defensive linemen, I honestly think they're doing all right. With defensive linemen, they have Burns, and I know I talked about him earlier, Derek Brown. Derek Brown is a hoss. Like that dude,
he was a monster
good.
at Auburn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like their defense has potential, but they definitely need to work on getting an offense that can score, and to do that, you need an offensive line. You need an offensive line that puts Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders in position to win on the ground, and you need an offensive line to make sure that Bryce Young isn't throwing pressured passes at the very least. Other than that, it's so easy for me to identify it this way, and I've identified what I think are the problems and what they need to focus on. I have no idea how they fix it. No idea how they fix it. And in fact, like I found myself thinking, all the good that came to him from trading away Christian McCaffrey. I know most of us that appreciate Christian McCaffrey for the player that he is. We were all very happy to see him go to San Francisco. But upon him going to San Francisco, we just I found myself watching this game yesterday thinking to myself, should Carolina have traded him? Did it end up paying off? I know it put them in position to get Bryce Young, but back when they were playing Sam Darnold, I feel like they were a far more intimidating team than what we see now.
So. Caleb, you talk about the coaching job. Let me put something out there for y'all. They've had 5 different coaches since 2019. Why would you want to go to an organization that goes through coaches like it's nothing?
And that's a good point. That's a very good point. And that's part of the reason why I can't think of who on earth would end up being the coach there. You go from Ron Rivera to was it Matt Rule after Ron Rivera, or was there a coach in the middle there? I can't remember.
You had Ron Rivera, Perry Fuller, I think is how I pronounce it, Matt Rule, Steve Wilkes, Frank Reich, and then Chris Tabor right now for their
interim.
Yeah. So 5 different coaches, and it's going to be 6 by next year because they're going to have to hire someone over there and coach. So 6 coaches by the time they do hire someone since 2019. That's more coaches than years at that point.
Yeah, and I that's why I think they truly are in the worst situation, because not only is it that they are 1-12, it's that I truly just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for them. I just don't. Yeah. I think it's going to be years before we are even able to see even a glimpse of how they can solve all these problems and become a fixture again. I mean, when you are the worst team in the worst division in the NFL, it to me, that underscores why they are in the worst position. They are the worst team in the NFL, and you'd be hard pressed to argue otherwise.
Yeah, I can see your point there. Well, let's go to BB, who he could, I mean, realistically just go off the analysis of what he's seeing right now, because it's one of the teams that's playing.
Oh yeah, so I'm doing the Titans, right?
Yes, BB, you're doing the Titans.
Okay, I was making sure because my screen said Packers and Falcons. Make sure I didn't. Yeah.
I don't blame you for not wanting to watch the Titans. I can't blame that.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I think the Titans, if I was Foster Gregory, owner of the Titans, I would clean house, start with the front office. Because when a lot of this is going to be a repeat from what I said a couple of minutes ago. about during the deadline episode. When your offense is predicated on run game, and you're in the bottom 10 teams in run offense statistically at the moment, something's got to change. And with Ryan Tannehill being like on the outs, you kind of find a pulse with Mom Jean's Will Levis. I don't know. I think they should have traded Derrick Henry during the trade deadline and got some more picks when his value was most. But instead, they didn't. They re-signed him to a bigger contract, which is going to make him harder to move. And pointed up, the dead cap penalty they would have got if they released him was like $20 million, which coming from a Falcons fan that released Matt Ryan, it's not really that great of a scenario to happen for you. And they just keep on making, like, back in the front office, they keep on making weird signings. Like DeAndre Hopkins. You know, that, I mean, it's good for them, but I just don't really understand what got him there. He hasn't really done all that too much, it seems like, looking at the stats. And then other examples, trading AJ Brown for what world was that? I would want to know who thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most boneheaded trades in the past 3 years easily.
Because if you look at it, AJ Brown, they could have opened up a lot of things in the run game if you actually have a competent receiver that's under the age of 30, and not have to worry about hamstring issues like you had to do with Julio. And I don't know. I would start there. And they got a few good pieces. I think they can build off of. Like
and the thing was, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, and the big thing about the AJ Brown trade was that they thought that the kid from Arkansas that they picked up was going to be his like AJ Brown incarnate. And they're like, oh, AJ Brown's kind of like run his course. And AJ Brown's only been in the league 4 years. It seems like he's been around forever because he's been making an impact for that long. And so if they would have kept AJ Brown and then had DeAndre Hopkins on the other side, that could have opened, like, we're talking about opening up the run game. Yeah. Like, those are two of the most competent receivers. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit out of his prime, but he's still
a playmaker.
He's still DeAndre Hopkins,
Yeah.
He's still got hands. Yeah. So, like that, I feel like that, and I feel like another thing too. One thing that I feel like you didn't really touch on, but name the last time they've had like a competent tight end.
I can't.
They had Jonnu Smith, who everybody raved about, but now he's at New England? And now, granted, that's not a great place for any kind of receiving specialty player to be in. Yeah, offensive player to be at, which I will get to here in a second. Spoiler alert. So it's like there's been nobody to check down to for the young receivers, whether it be Malik Willis or Will Levis right now. And then Tannehill was Tannehill. So
yeah,
not Tannehill. Tannehill. Yeah. I was trying to say Kirk Cousins, but yeah, Tannehill.
I mean, like, the moral of the story is, it all comes. I just want to come back to trade deadline because it pissed me off so much. They just sat on their hands instead of like moving to a direction. It clearly wouldn't work, and everybody knew it was going to be in for a long season during the trade deadline. So now they didn't go to total full rebuild, and they're still the worst team in their own division with what they think's their best roster. Like they all, you take the room temp of Titans fans, they thought they were going to win the division, and now they're 4-8, and I don't know.
So how much of it do you think the decision to keep Derrick Henry, how much do you think is that based on like just the market? Like, as far as, by market, I mean like the market for the audience, because Derrick Henry went to the University of Alabama. He's still in that market area for I guess, come over fans from Alabama to watching Derrick Henry.
That's a fair point. I mean, I've noticed a lot more Titans fans, like one of our friends named Eli, pop up right when Derrick Henry went there. And I mean, that's a valid point. He has a big footprint in the Southeast, which the team is located.
Yeah,
but that doesn't. But
no, I'm not justifying it. I'm with you. I'm not arguing against. I'm just trying to get in their head.
I would almost say they don't want to make the same mistake that the Panthers did with Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, that's a good point too.
I feel like that's two totally different things. Christian
McCaffrey is a totally different caliber of player.
No, plus and he is. But Derrick Henry is still one of those guys that you can put out there and beat up the defense with.
Now, if you want to say that their front office is kind of a route, kind of the round four to get behind their problems, I agree with you. Because, I mean, I guess if you think you got your guy, you go get your guy. But now you got your guy running for his life, like Cable's talking in his analysis, and you don't have your number one overall pick.
Yeah,
very true.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty compelling argument.
But I'm like if I was a Titans fan, I would be okay with them at least trying to make an effort to go into a direction instead of being in limbo. Because you're setting the inevitable back.
Yeah. I tell you what fix all these problems is if the University of Houston would just stop using those damn alternate jerseys.
Yeah, I can't wait for the curse of Houston University on the Titans. They don't win like a conference for like 30 years because they sued the University of Houston over jerseys.
All right. Well, I guess that gets to me. And then the team that I picked is, I mean, like I alluded to earlier, is the New England Patriots. First off, the quarterback situation is not great. I know Bailey Zappi, he was one of our highlights. He had a great game this past week, but I think he is a short-term answer. And when I say short-term, I mean like a few weeks. New England really attempted to make themselves a run-heavy team with the addition of Ezekiel Elliott to Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield. But Zeke has not really impressed. Or Ramondre Stevenson has basically had the same season he did last year. Like he kind of started off slower and became more of an impact towards the end of the year. So, and another thing is they have no receiving core. So no quarterback and no receiving core. So there's just nothing there to generate any kind of passing game. So their offensive line is okay, but it's really hard to tell how good their offensive line is because of how bad their offensive skill set is, or their skill players are. So the defense realistically is based off of how the offense plays. If the offense can go out and establish the run or even have like a decent passing game and establish longer drives, the defense doesn't do bad. But when you look at when you look at games, to point out in particular, the Cowboys, when they played the Cowboys and lost 38-3, they had 207 yards passing between two quarterbacks. They were 16 of 30 with 2 interceptions, and they only had about 45 yards rushing. So nothing really going for the offense there. And then when you look at when they play the Saints and the Saints won 34-0, they had 132 yards passing with 2 interceptions and 45 rushing yards. So the defense is kind of like the offensive line. You can't really gauge how good they are. I think they have a decent defense. I mean, besides those 2 games, they're averaging like mid-20s in terms of like allowing points, like 20 to the Eagles, 24 to the Dolphins, 29 to the Bills, 31 to the Dolphins again. And then the past 3 games, which is the Colts, Giants, and Chargers, take it for what it was. We'll say 4 games. 10 to the Colts, 10 to the Giants, 6 to the Chargers, and 21 to the Steelers. And then 20 to the Commanders, who we talked about. The Commanders actually have a decent offense besides their offensive line. So, and I'll be honest with you. I think it's about time for Belichick to move on. I think that he was able to have Brady for so long and build around Brady for so long that it's kind of like how we've talked about, like I've mentioned a couple times, like the game is catching up to Saban. I think during those years of Brady and Belichick, I think the game passed Belichick, but he still had Brady to lean back on. And he still had, whether it be Randy Moss, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Rob Gronkowski. Yeah. So, like, he had those players to lean back on and always had, I mean, he always had a decent defense. He's always had a decent defense. But
so you're saying he can't build a team anymore?
I feel like he can't build a team anymore. I really don't. And that's the thing about, like we talked about with New England, is that, Bill Belichick is their GM and their coach. So I feel like, I feel like Belichick's the type of guy that he wants both. And if they try to take one away from him, he's going to just quit. He's going to retire or whatever. Like, he's just going to get away from it because he's in the same mindset. He's a lot like Saban. Like, he doesn't do failure. And I would think he would see that as a failure. So I think he would just ride off into the sunset. By the way, Will Levis just pulled a Derek Carr.
Oh, no way.
Oh, God.
He just threw it right to a defensive tackle.
I'm glad you're watching that one, because the Packers just did the most dirty hit I've ever seen on a punt returner.
Yeah, well, are you watching I forgot the Packers are playing right now, but I forgot there's 2 Monday night games. But yeah, but the bad thing about it was that Will Levis threw it and ended up being a pick six. So yeah,
and Derek Carr, you got your bacon saved, man.
So back to lowlights. But I guess to sum it all up, it's like they need a regime change. Like, I feel like the Patriots need to burn it all, like scorched earth, flatten everything, turn it into a parking lot, and then build from the ground up. Like, new GM, new coach, and establish a new identity. Because, like, again, like, the Patriots right now, if you want to talk about identities, they kind of have that identity of an older ball team, like an early to mid 2000s ball team. Great defense, supposedly a solid running game, and then pass when needed. Pass for 200 to 250 yards or however many, maybe a touchdown, maybe two. And that goes back to what I was talking about, where I think the game has surpassed Belichick. Like, I think that old mindset of thinking, I think he's not going to adapt to it. And you can tell in the press conferences, man, like he's got the way he wants to do things and his mindset, and he's not going to change it. Like, I of course, like his media etiquette is not great, but I don't blame him for that. I'd probably have the same mindset, but it just seems like he's not willing to make the changes to catch up with the game.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of highlights that, Grayson, to your point, I mean, if you look at their roster, their skill position players, like, they're all old guys. Like Juju Smith-Schuster, dude's got 200.
He's a flop. Juju Smith-Schuster's a flop.
260 yards this season, and he's only had 11 out of 11 games played. He's had 29 receptions, and he's only got 260 yards this season. And you got names like Mike Gesicki. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott. Need I say more? It's just.
I mean,
you're not grafting. You're not.
That was supposed to be their prize receiver draft pick, and I had him on my taxi squad, and I looked through half the season. He had 2 catches, and I was like, "Yeah, you gonna get off now."
Yeah. I mean, and you look at the guys. I mean, they like Devontae Parker, who hasn't really panned out. I mean, Devontae Parker probably has 250 yards maybe for the year. I'm trying to, let's see. Yeah, he's got about 250. I'm trying to find let's see, yards. Here we go.
Yeah, 264.
264 yards. And like he wasn't bad at when
Miami.
he was at Miami, but there again though, I don't think he was the number one receiver either. Whoever this guy, Tyquan Thornton. Okay. One of the picks that we had on No Dog, Demario Douglas. I believe he is a rookie. Yeah, he's a rookie. He's got 410 yards. Yeah, and like BB said, Keyshawn Booty. But yeah, I mean, their only offense is Ramondre Stevenson and then half of Ezekiel Elliott. And it's probably the bottom half because I think the top half is a little top heavy. So yeah, so that's my take on New England. So sum it all up, Kyle, starting with you, real quick. After what you've heard, who is the franchise in the worst spot?
So I hearing everything, I would almost want to go New England, but the reality is, if they get a new coach and GM, I think that fixes the team. Going with the Panthers myself, there's just so much wrong with that organization, from the team to the players to no protection on what's supposed to be a franchise quarterback. If you spend a number one pick on the quarterback, that's a franchise quarterback. Defense is horrible. There's just so much wrong with it.
Yeah. Caleb?
Yeah, I got to stick with, the team I pitched, and it's got to be the Carolina Panthers. The only plus, I tend to agree with Kyle. At least we don't know how Robert Kraft will be once Bill Belichick's out of the picture. For all we know, he can be open-minded, and he could actually give a coaching staff time there to develop their own scheme, develop their own draft strategies and everything, and really kind of adjust himself. But, kind of like what Kyle said, you got so much turnover with the Carolina Panthers coaches. It's almost like it's a front office issue. At that point, you tend to point fingers at the ownership. So I think the Panthers, to me, it's got to be the Panthers. The only thing they got going for them against the Patriots, I would put the Patriots at the second worst. The only thing they got going over the Patriots is they got a better quarterback.
Yeah. And go real quick on the Panthers too. I heard a great analogy. They said like the owner is treating us like fantasy football, not real life. Not like these coaches just have families and stuff, and it's just like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah. BB?
Yeah, I agree with everybody with Carolina Panthers. I think they reached their quarterback when they probably, if they held off, they probably would have got either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young at the spot they originally had, and plus they gave up their best receiver they've had since. Well, if you consider Christian McCaffrey a receiver, he kind of is, kind of isn't.
Yeah, if you want to talk about receivers, they traded away Robbie Anderson.
DJ Moore.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, DJ Moore. The Bears. And I feel like not having that first round draft pick this year is hurting them.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to stick with my pick with the Patriots, and the reason being is because I think the Panthers are one step ahead of the Patriots in terms of rebuilding, which is firing their coach. Who knows what goes next, but as of right now, if you look at the Patriots, besides their draft pick this coming up year, nothing is changing for them. Besides whatever they pick up in free agency and their draft picks, nothing is changing. There's been no announcements about Bill Belichick. There has been no talk about Bill Belichick getting fired, like at all. So I think they may still be stuck in purgatory, basically, for years to come in a division that they're not going to be able to win anything in between the Bills and the Dolphins. They're not going to be able to win anything in that division as they are now. They're going to continue to be. And here's the thing. I think I would rather be the Panthers. And of course, again, the Panthers they gave up their number one pick, or their pick that is number one right now. They gave up that first round pick, but they still have the draft after. If the Patriots continue to be, I don't know, let's just say they finish the season off
territory.
Yeah, exactly. They get the 4th or 5th pick every single year, or even further, depending on the record.
5 through 10, baby, that's us.
Yeah, and the thing is like, like Robert Kraft, like what is he going to want? What is Belichick going to want? And obviously, like I said, his mindset, he's got the old mindset. So if he doesn't take and actually build the team, do they know they need an offensive line? They know what they need. They need receivers. They need a quarterback. But will they take those steps? Will they actually go get a big time target receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors or somebody like that? Or will they take another running back? Will they take
and settle for receivers coming off of practice squads? And,
yeah, exactly.
They draft the center from Western Iowa State University.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I would say the Patriots. But
there's one thing I just thought about. Panthers, our boy Zoo posted a compilation of this year that of all the passes that have hit Panthers receivers right in the face mask, and it is alarmingly long. Of it, the ball going through their hand and hitting the face mask.
Ugh.
And several of them were touchdowns. Granted, that probably would have been made it 42-7 instead of 42-0, but
that'd be another good segment. Would be biggest bust from the first round this past year in the draft. But we'll save that for another time. All right. Well, sticking in the NFL, I guess we'll go to our game predictions for this coming up week. Just to go over records, we suck at picking NFL games. We went 11 for 25 this past week. We are at 51.1% for the year. We are floating. If we hit the 49 mark, I'm gonna hurt physically. So
get ready.
Kyle is 33 and 37. Caleb is perfect at 500, 35 and 35. 35 and 35, not 35 for 35. Nick is leading the pack at 42 and 28. BB is 31 and 39, and then I'm at 38 and 32. Our games for the week this week are Tampa Bay at Green Bay, Denver versus Detroit, Dallas versus Buffalo, Minnesota at Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh versus Indianapolis. So let's go through everybody's picks real quick, starting with Kyle. Kyle, let's give me your picks.
Yeah, sorry, Grayson, but give me Green Bay to beat Tampa Bay.
Green Bay's on a hot kiss my ass. Tampa Bay's going to win. I don't care. Green Bay has sucked against the NFC South this year. Give me, besides the Saints, but give me Tampa Bay. Sorry, I had to interject. Continue.
They're 1 for 1. I think Green Bay's just on such a hot streak right now. It's hard to beat them. Tampa, they're so up and down. I love Baker Mayfield. I really do hope he finds success. And I was hoping it would be for Tampa. I ain't gonna lie to you, Grayson. Tampa's probably one of my favorite NFC South teams. But give me the cheese, give me Jordan Love, and I'm starting to be a believer. I talked a lot of shit about him. I'm sorry, football gods. He's starting to look like the next Hall of Famer that Green Bay brings in every year. Give me Green Bay, baby.
So you're a lover now?
Kyle,
I guess.
Kyle, do me a favor. Do this right here. Oh my face god! Like crazy.
Oh my god!
Your next game.
It's better than getting bent over every year by my team and getting in the ass.
Hey, I got the Braves, so you can't hurt me.
Where was this uncivility during the uncivil debate?
Well, we always agree, pretty much.
Yeah, it's hard to be uncivil when you're like, no, yeah, you got good point.
Yeah, good point. My next pick, Denver against Detroit. Man, Detroit has been slipping, and Denver has not been. I think Sean Payton's got the recipe figured out, and I think they're going to keep rolling with that. And so Denver's looking good, and I think they're going to continue there. Dallas against Buffalo. Man, Dallas, we were talking about good tight ends earlier. Jake Ferguson is coming into his own, and that's another weapon for that offense, and it's spreading out the defenses even more, making them a harder team to beat. So give me Dallas against Buffalo there. Minnesota against Cincy. Minnesota is such a hard team to read. Dobbs comes in and he looks okay, but he looks bad, and he looks okay. I don't think you're going to beat a decent Cincy team with up and down. So give me Cincy on that one. And then Pitt against Indy. I'm the only one to pick Pitt, but I think Pitt, with such an experienced defense, gives these rookie QBs a very hard time. And I'm sorry for spoiling everyone else, but anyways, I think with how experienced that defense is, they bring the pressure on these rookie QBs. We saw it last, a few times this year, and I think they continue that. I think they're going to continue to pressure, and they're going to, another ugly game, but another 18-11 game or something stupid like that.
All right. Well, I'm going to go right quick because I feel like I need to rebuttal. So the Buccaneers are back on track after a good win against a strong Atlanta Falcons team this past week. So good divisional win there. They're on a 2-game win streak. They have beat 2 NFC South opponents. They beat the Panthers by 3 the week before. So Tampa's defense is consistent, man. They are consistent. Besides one game against the Texans where they lost 39-37 because we decided that wanted to be a shootout for some ungodly reason. They hit a bad stretch. I mean, after a bye, I think the bye hurt them. I think instead of helping them, it hurt them. But they're starting to get back on track. I just see Baker and the 1,000-yard receiver Mike Evans connecting for at least 2 touchdowns. Rashad White is coming into his own as a running back. He is playing Christian McCaffrey-esque, not in terms of any kind of rushing yards. It's all receiving yards. But I think he's coming into his own. He's a young guy. We've also got, Chris Godwin, who's he's fairly consistent. The only thing that is in flux is tight end play. I wish we had a little bit better tight end play. By the way, Rashad White is the number 5 position player in fantasy. He has had.
They originally drafted him and traded him too early.
Well, listen to this. Over the past 3 games, he has had 286 yards rushing with a touchdown, and he has also had 65 yards receiving. So he actually has been rushing the ball. He's gotten 15, 20, and 25 rushing yards. So it looks like they're actually establishing the run now. So I feel like if they can do that, I will say Green Bay's defense is tough, but I honestly think this is going to be like a defensive struggle, honestly. Like, I don't think this is going to be a 39-37 game like against the Texans. I think it's going to be like a 21-18, something like that, and Tampa Bay extends their lead in the NFC South. Moving on, Denver and Detroit. I disagree with you, Kyle. I don't think Detroit's slipping. I think there is a false narrative that Detroit is slipping because everybody says Detroit is slipping, but they're still winning the games. They have the 3rd best record in the NFC, which they're only 1 game behind. Was it Philly and San Francisco? So I think there's this narrative that they slip and they lose games. Of course, yeah, they lost to the Bears this past week, but
Justin Fields was back.
Justin Fields is back. So it's hard to prepare for a quarterback when the other team doesn't even know who he is, right?
Right.
So, give me. They know what to expect against Denver. Another thing that you have to take into consideration: Amon-Ra St. Brown had the worst game he's had this year. I do not expect that to happen twice in a row. So give me Detroit there. Give me Dallas against Buffalo. Again, Dallas has got to build up so much confidence in their fan base for them to just blow it in the first round against the NFC South champion, whether it be the Falcons or the Buccaneers now. Minnesota and Cincinnati. I'm going to pick Cincinnati on that one. I made this not analogy, but I said this the other day or yesterday. Minnesota is starting to play consistent, and they are consistently not good. I think the Josh Dobbs effect has finally worn off. Cincinnati's inconsistent, but their inconsistent is either really, really good or really, really bad, and there is nothing in between here. Either they boom or they bust. Nothing else. I think they're going to boom against Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota will have the facilities to stop Cincinnati, especially since they've kind of bought into Jake Browning, getting Joe Mixon involved more. Jamar Chase has had a couple of good games here and there over the past couple of weeks. He's starting to be more consistent. So give me Cincinnati, and then finally Pitt and Indy. Hayes, I can't pick Pittsburgh. Hayes, give me Indianapolis, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Indianapolis like 7-4 or 7-5 right now? Well, what is their record? I can't.
Their record is 7-6.
7-6. Okay, Indianapolis 7-6. I don't know why I tried to subtract two losses from them, but yep, I think they have found a state of consistency as well. And like Nick said earlier, well, he didn't say it, I said it, but what I read from Nick earlier, Pitt's got a lot of problems. Like their record does not reflect how bad they are. And I think that's going to show like this coming up week. And if Indianapolis can bust through Pittsburgh's defense, like, and score quick, that's what Indianapolis needs to do. They just need to score quick, because if they can go up 14-0 and make them throw the ball, make bitch Trubisky throw the ball, or, if Kenny Pissant's back, like, that's they're not going to be able to throw the ball. They're going to throw for 150 yards. I don't care if Matt Canada is the offensive coordinator or not. They're not good. Deontay Johnson is lazy. George Pickens is too worried about God knows what. He's trying to figure out who he's going to assault after the game, I guess. I don't really know. Jaylen Warren is like cannot play a whole game with Najee Harris slacking, which he's played great the past couple games, but again, like I said, give me Indianapolis. Caleb, your turn.
All righty. So starting off from the top, I'm taking Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. I agree with everything that Grayson said about Tampa Bay, especially their defense. I do believe that this is going to be a close one. I don't think Green Bay is going to run away with this one. I'm not going to say it. So I'm taking Green Bay, and against Detroit and Denver, everyone's already kind of highlighted everything about this game for me. I just like the amount of weapons that Detroit has. I know they lost to the Bears, but like Grayson said, Justin Fields came back, and nobody's really been able to prep for him ever since he lost time. So I think that was a setback. I don't think that the Detroit Lions are backsliding. So I'm taking Detroit. I think they have the weapons to win, and I think they'll come away with it. Dallas and Buffalo. To put it in terms that BB would, Dallas is an absolute wagon. So I'm easily taking Dallas over Buffalo. I know I picked Buffalo last week over Kansas City, and that worked out for me, but there are very few teams in this league that are going to be beating Dallas in the coming days, and Buffalo isn't going to be one of them. Going to Cincinnati and Minnesota, I agree with Grayson's description of it all perfectly. In other words, I concur. Cincinnati is inconsistently good and bad, whereas Minnesota is consistently bad. I think a large part of any glimpses of hope that we saw from Minnesota after Kirk Cousins got injured, not that it looked all that great before he got injured. With Josh Dobbs, I think it was easy to overhype him considering the fact that his best game at Arizona was his first start and his best game at Minnesota was his first time seeing play time. And it's because the teams they were playing never had a chance to game prep for him. Neither of them really anticipated him coming in. So he had the element of surprise, quite literally had the element of surprise. So Josh Dobbs, respect the guy for sure. But I don't think it was ever a wise decision to ever think you would get any kind of longevity out of Josh Dobbs. And I don't think any NFL teams have an appetite for picking him up with hopes of making him a starter. So taking Cincy. With Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, I just don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me to pick Pittsburgh. I'm going Indianapolis. I think, Indianapolis at this point is tied with the Texans. So to me, that is, on par with greatness, at least for their division. Because the Texans, I think, have had a really good season this year. I know their record is 75 now? Is it 7-5?
So yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I got them all pulled up right here.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with how the Texans have played, and Indianapolis, considering the fact that they lost Anthony Richardson earlier in the year, I think they've exceeded everyone's expectations. They're able to get it done with Gardner Minshew, win the games they can. So taking Indianapolis, and that's it for me.
All right. Well, right quick before we get to BB, because I know he's going to have a lot of things to say. Nick picked Green Bay, Detroit. He actually picked Buffalo against Dallas. He picked Cincinnati as well. He concurred. And he also picked Indianapolis over Pittsburgh. So now that gets into our in-depth NFL analyst, Brandon Black. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Okay. First one. I'm picking Green Bay because I need the Falcons to get their lick back. I agree with Caleb and Grayson about Detroit. I got Dallas by Joyless Murder Ball. Cincinnati and a T. Higgins legacy game. He's only going to come back player of the year for this game. And I'm taking Indianapolis because I don't want Hayes to have anything nice.
About a T. Higgins legacy game, by God.
Hey, I told you, Jalen Waddle better have a legacy game tonight because you're 4 points down from Hayes right now. I need.
Hey, bro, he's balling. He's already got 44 yards.
I need Tyreek Hill to have a legacy game so I can put Van out of his misery.
You need to shut your mouth and listen to what I'm telling you. If in ESPN, if you beat Hayes, I get into the playoffs.
I don't care about your playoffs.
I don't care about my playoffs.
Well, I got that. All I'm saying is,
shut up, Kyle. We're arguing.
No,
shut up.
I should be in there, but I got absolutely screwed. Justin Herbert decided to get hurt. And Justin Jefferson decided, I'm going to get hurt again because I'm a little pussy boy. So there we go.
I thought Justin Jefferson was still good.
No,
he came in, but he got hurt again.
I heard on a report today that they think he'll still be good to play this upcoming weekend.
Dude, but didn't help him this weekend.
He got hurt. He got me 4 points.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm in the past.
Yeah. So So moral of the story is BB, be a team player.
No.
Baby, we need
it's moments like this when ownership groups come together and determine what's good for the league. And collectively, we can all say Hayes getting into the playoffs is not good for the league.
Well, like I have said earlier, look, I'm just saying, if Hayes loses, this week, me and him are tied. I think, yes, we're tied. But even if I have one loss, I've got a better strength schedule and quality losses, so I should get the playoff.
But what's your strength of record?
That's all I'm saying.
What's your SOS?
Strength, it's high. I mean, y'all, I'm number one in points against because y'all see me every week, and it's like, we can't have Grayson anything like ammunition against us. So
I don't think we
drop 150
playoffs, Paul.
What'd you say?
I don't think weak defenses should get in the playoffs.
Hey, that ain't me. That's y'all. Y'all decide to turn up the heat. I'm consistent. I consistently score between 80 and 150 points a game. Just saying.
I don't think QBs that don't know where the freaking line of scrimmage is should be in the playoffs, but whatever.
Okay. All right. Oh, while we're here, so it's time for everybody's favorite segment of the week, except for Nick. That's why he's not on here right now. Kyle's out-of-pocket pick of the week. Kyle, obviously we're doing it with the NFL this week. Who is our out-of-pocket pick of the week this week?
Yeah, Grayson, I did another spike pick, and it's for a piece of shit in here. A motherfucker that doesn't know how to pronunciate words.
All right, Romeo Dubes, calm down over there.
Who congratulations to you, just got like engaged. You know, congrats. You're still ugly as fuck. That poor female. Give me Carolina.
Get that dick spit off your lip before you talk to me, son.
Beating Atlanta by a lot. Bryce
like
Young.
You both
legacy.
shot up Novocaine into your lips and decided
game,
to like argue with one another.
Bryce Young legacy game.
No, I don't think both these offenses are going to score a lot, but they'll win by a lot.
38-7.
Kyle, they're having
John Robinson could die after killing my parlay. Okay.
Oh, did I say Novocaine? I meant ketamine.
Yeah, I guess fentanyl is running rampant in Milwaukee right now.
I swear, it's like Kyle was talking in slow motion there.
Yeah, no
I should
kidding.
I should do my oop every week for NFL because right now I'm at 100% on the NFL oop. So
Yeah, you're 1 for 1.
You're letting it go to your head again, just like you did with college.
Yeah, he's definitely getting that DMT from Kenosha. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Kenosha Kyle.
All right, before we get really off the tracks, let's get into college football. Okay, well, we're going to go into college football now. We're better in terms of records with – Jesus, you are down in that bad boy. Does that make 7?
Well, I was just drinking a High Noon and finished a
Wisconsin
can,
Public
and then I
Defenders.
looked behind that can, and there was another can, and then I had to drink that can, and then I had to go and pick the Carolina Panthers to beat the Falcons.
Nick decided he wanted to have the flu, so someone's got to get drunk around here.
God, Nick is going to come scorn and hate next episode. He's going to listen to this, and he's going to remember like whatever time slot this is, and he's just coming with scorn and malice. So, all right, let's get into college football. Our records are better. Kyle's 43-28. Caleb's 46-25. BB's also 46-25. Nick is at 50-21. And I'm at 53-18. So I still haven't hit the 20 loss mark. So I'm feeling good about that. Almost at 75% on the picks. This week we're doing bowl predictions. One of y'all can help me out. Well, actually, I can pull up what actual bowls they are. I just want to read the bowl.
New Orleans Bowl.
Yeah, I want to read the bowl games. All right. So let's do this. Perfect. Okay, I got them. So the first game is the New Orleans Bowl with Jacksonville State versus Louisiana. Then we have the Cure Bowl, which is Miami, Ohio versus Appalachian State. The New Mexico Bowl, which has, fittingly, New Mexico State versus Fresno State. The LA Bowl, which is UCLA versus Boise State. And then the Independence Bowl between Cal and Texas Tech. So let's go through our picks, one pick at a time, starting with you, Kyle.
Yeah. I got the Raging Cajuns. And this is going to sound like a hypocrite pick later on, but right now I'm going with the Sun Belt. JSU. And I'll leave this to BB, actually. I don't want to spoil anything. So give me the Raging Cajuns.
Caleb?
Yeah, I'm taking the Raging Cajuns too. Similar, I mean, I think I've stayed pretty true to Sunbelt, so I'm gonna say, Raging Cajuns taking it. Jacksonville State. They're still a growing program, to say the least, and I'm sure BB will have a lot to say about them.
Yeah. I'm also taking Louisiana. Nick is actually taking Jacksonville State in an upset, I guess. So that gets to BB. Who are you picking?
So Jacksonville State, it's kind of like that little brother you have, and you go easy on them, you let them get the confidence up, and then they kind of start talking shit. You know, they get a little moxie about themselves when they hadn't played nobody. And guess what? Riley
They
Green
ain't played nobody, Paul.
I ain't played nobody, Paul, and Riley Green ain't coming to New Orleans Superdome's going to save their asses from the Raging Cajuns, who are going to be speaking more gibberish than me and Kyle. Touchdown! Go Cajuns! Yeah, I got Sunbelt, baby. Go Sunbelt. It's all about the
Go Sunbelt.
Sunbelt. Ass kicking chicken ain't gonna ass kick.
All right. Well, moving on.
I will admit, I will add one more thing. The slogan "ass kicking chicken's" pretty rad. I will give that. That's pretty rad.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to our next game, Miami of Ohio versus Appalachian State. Let's start with Caleb on this one.
Yeah, so I'm going App State, Sunbelt all the way, baby.
Okay. Nick, he's not here. App State, BB.
Mountain Men.
Okay. Kyle.
Like I said, I do usually like the Sunbelt, but there's got to be at least one good team in Ohio. So give me Miami of Ohio to win the bowl game. There you go, baby.
I'm also actually going to take Miami of Ohio. I unfortunately don't think App State is up to par where they've usually played this past year. And don't correct me if I'm wrong, but Miami of Ohio did they win the MAC or were they runner up in the MAC?
I'm almost
because it was them in Toledo,
sure
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they beat Toledo because I was talking shit against Miami of Ohio for my oop. The worst watch.
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Ended up being a really good game, huh?
Yeah. All I know is that school. All I know is that school that Big Ben built ain't got nothing on that team in Boone, North Carolina.
Nay, well, I think they will. I think they will in the Sun Chips Bowl or whatever they had, whatever game that is.
That aren't.
Maybe they can make another Disney movie about that team in Boone, Carolina.
All right, moving on to the New Mexico Bowl. New Mexico and Fresno State. Let's start with Nick. He's not here. He's picking Fresno State.
Okay, BB. I'm gonna cut this, but hold on one second. Kyle, are you talking about We Are Marshall?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
No, it's Remember Titans. That was Boone, North Carolina.
No, it was not.
No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
It was Virginia.
Don't cut this. Don't cut this. Actually, leave
Kyle,
it in.
Hold up.
You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're right.
You're thinking about Denzel Washington's character.
Yeah, you're
Coach
right.
Boone.
Yeah, Coach Boone.
Oh my God.
Kyle, damn it.
I've drank too many High Noons. All right, back to the show, boys.
Thinking about Boone, North Carolina, Coach Boone, High Noon.
Okay. Nick is picking Fresno State against New Mexico State. BB?
Well, if you can beat a team in a pasture, you can beat a team in Mexico. Give me New Mexico State.
I'm also picking New Mexico State. It's going to be a home game for them since it's in New Mexico. Plus, they did beat the juggernaut Auburn Tigers this year that lost on a last-second play to a team that shouldn't be in the college football playoff. So I'm going to pick New Mexico State. So your BB, your Bammer showing. Kyle.
Don't tell Bradley that.
Grayson, yeah. I'm glad you said something because I was about to go on a rant there.
No, thank God.
But when you could beat a godly conference like the SEC, who can lose a game and get into the SEC or into the playoffs, you're obviously going to beat Fresno State. I mean, it's not even close. So give me New Mexico State by a mil.
Kyle or Caleb. We just did Kyle. We're not going to go through that again. Caleb.
No.
Okay, so New Mexico State, we're talking about a team that not only beat Auburn, who played a game down to a wire against the number 4 team in the nation right now. They beat them handily. 31-10. They lost to Liberty, who Liberty was an accomplished team, 33-17, so not very good. But that Auburn game really highlights that New Mexico State is a capable team.
Moving to the next game, UCLA versus Boise State. Let's start with Nick picked Boise State. We all picked Boise State. Why did we all pick Boise State?
Because what a bunch of people from California going to do when a bunch of Idahoans come down there and run the football down your mouth?
Let me tell you the real reason. It's because Chip Kelly is a moron. He's got to be the dumbest coach. I would pick Jimbo Fisher and trust in a fart after a crab leg buffet over Chip Kelly. Because let me tell you, Chip Kelly is a moron. And it ain't even close. It ain't a hot take, man. He's 6-6 against a prestige football program. And I know you're saying, oh, it's Pac-12, but you got to remember, UCLA used to be a prestige football college.
Yeah, they were like caring about football.
Well, fair point. But then they're like, okay, well, he beat USC, so we're going to give him another year to try again. This is too. You know what? I'm not going to get into this. Chip Kelly is a terrible coach.
I'm picking Boise State because you never count Boise State out in a bowl game. That's the exact reason I picked him. That was about it for me. I didn't decide that I wanted to spew out Chip Kelly hate speech this week. Sorry, I'll save that for next week.
I got a paragraph I would like to read on that motherfucker.
On Boise because of Kyle.
Listen, okay. If Chip Kelly fell off a cliff, UCLA would have an 8-4 record next year because he wouldn't be the coach. That's all I gotta say on that.
All right, so in regard to Boise State and UCLA, other than the fact that I like blue turf, I'm picking Boise State. But honestly, I was inclined to think about picking UCLA until I realized Desmond Moore won't be playing. He entered the transfer portal, so seeing as they don't really have their starting quarterback anymore, I don't think UCLA, despite being favored, I believe. Or no. I think Boise State's favored.
No, I think Boise State's at the 3.5.
But I think it's solidified since UCLA doesn't have their starting quarterback.
I'm glad you said who Desmond Moore was, because I was about to ask you who that was.
Yeah, you got way too technical for my pick, Caleb. I just remember they beat Oklahoma a couple, like, 10, 15 years ago in that one bowl game. I was like, hell, they'll win every single game. All right, final. Easy. That's the second time you name dropped him on this episode, man. Lay off of Foster. He's having to watch the existential crisis that is the Tennessee Titans right now. Like, relax. Kyle and Texas Tech. Kyle, yeah.
Okay,
Kyle,
okay.
Yeah, that's getting it out. Kyle and Texas Tech. Nick was the only person that picked Cal here.
I picked Texas Tech because, to me, I followed Pac-12 kind of religiously this year, but Cal this year has been one of the worst Pac-12 teams. They've relied too heavily on their defense, but their defense isn't what it should be. And I think Texas Tech's offense is going to be able to score on them with having a decent enough defense to hold down California's offense.
Caleb.
Texas Tech. Texas Tech.
Maybe.
The Red Raiders from Texas.
I like their marching band.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Texas Tech. I'm going to pick Texas Tech too, because outside of Washington, the Pac-12 was complete shit. Like, they are bad. Like, I'm so glad they're dissolving, because they are just a terrible conference. Like, there's no way they could stack
Kyle,
up.
don't act like you're shocked to be hearing this.
There's no way they could stack up. No, I mean,
Pac-12 is the second best conference this year.
Yeah, then why are they going to be the thing next year? It'll be that.
Because
yeah,
of
I was
money.
about to say they're going to be dust next year.
Kyle, why
The
is
board of directors are a bunch of idiots and can't get a good TV deal.
they can't get a good TV deal? Why? Why
can't
they get a good TV deal?
Nobody wants to watch Pac-12 after dark.
I love Pac-12 after dark.
Yeah, because you're a sicko.
Sick.
Now,
Yes.
now
Yeah,
insert
dick.
this, but with Shohei Ohtani. You're welcome.
Listen. Pac-12. It's I'm glad we got to get to this.
Full circle.
Pac-12 is dissolving. Is kind of a very sad thing. You got to think about the history there and everything, like with the Rose Bowl, and the marching band on the field for their winning TD and everything like that.
The Rose Bowl's still going to be there.
See,
But it's not
the
the
Rose
same.
Bowl
It's not the
died
same,
during
though.
the college football playoff
It's
era.
and I kind of agree with you a little bit, but when it's not in the playoffs, it would go back to the Pac-12 against the Big Ten. That's a very historic game, and it's just it's sad seeing a very historic conference like that fall apart.
Yeah.
There's
it's really sad when a conference just does not have the talent to be able to keep a TV deal, and the worst group of Power 5 conference. I mean, you got to think that like Cal, a Pac-12 school, is about to lose to a Big 12 school. Like that's the reality of this coming up.
But
week.
number
That's
one pick is in Pac-12 this year.
Yeah, well, I'm not according to you. You have shot Caleb Williams down. Don't you change your narrative now.
Don't you change it.
Don't you change your narrative now.
I'm trying to make it make sense, Kyle.
I'm a D-list analyst here. Okay.
Also, UCLA is going to get beat by the team.
Bro, we're Q-list, man.
Oh, we're not good, but I can tell you, no. But y'all got to kind of admit, like seeing the Pac-12 with the history and everything dissolving like that. That's a little sad, y'all. And really. Seeing like the progression this year of the teams, like you look at Oregon, Washington, and Oregon State, and some of the other teams. It sucks seeing that they were coming again, like back up to the power they used to be, and dissolving right after that.
Now, Pac-12 baseball, on the other hand, that's elite.
Well, I mean, it's kind of sad in the same sense of like putting down your old, deaf, blind dog that back legs don't work anymore and it has to use one of those wheelchairs and it just kind of like drags its back legs around. It's kind of sad in that sense. Like, it's time to go because it's like it can't do anything anymore, but you gotta love them. It's just like, I can't say that. Okay, never mind. It's like,
when there's two conferences in college football within the next 5 years, and that's it, we'll look back to this and say, man, the Pac-12's falling to pieces is what started this.
Okay, well, that ends episode 16. We may not be able to do 17 because we're probably going to be canceled. So,
who would have thought Kyle got canceled, not Nick Noah?
Yeah, who would have thought?
God, and it was so good. It was so good up until this last 20 minutes.
Oh no, God! High Noon Kyle, man.
6 High Noon.
I think for episode 20 or 25, like a milestone. I think we're just we're gonna just put in topics that we know that Kyle and Nick are just like on two sides of the field against, and then just start it and I'm going to mute everybody except for Kyle and Nick, and then just we're gonna have 2 hours of content, and then we're gonna have to clip out an hour and 15 of it. So
that motherfucker call in with the flu again because he knows what's up.
You're gonna have a bad week next week.
High Noon Kyle and Andy Gator Nick is gonna be something to see. But okay, we're done. JEB board's officially closed. Everybody go listen to Kyle spew his madness on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at just type in JEB board. I'm not gonna list them out. But until next time, casuals, don't get hard counted.